Well, Laura.
Well done.
London.
Protesting.
I
know, it was
what
great.
An absolute ledge. So proud of you.
Oh, thank you. It was really, really lovely. It was really exciting and I really enjoyed it. And it's just so funny, obviously, because we were literally just talking about it on the podcast about finding out about not being allowed legally to protest. And then it was like, I'm bloody going. I'm going to go and defend our right to protest. And the people striking today is just incredible to see.
Yeah.
So the Enough is Enough campaign is fantastic. And we just stand in solidarity with all of the workers. Pay the people, let there be unions. Like, it's just absolutely criminal what they're trying to do. And it was incredible to be at Downing Street among so many absolute legends. Yeah, loved it. It's just been all activism, tour.
Yeah, it's been all go.
A lot of plates.
And I'm back at uni. I've only been back for like 1.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, there's so much to do.
And we've also had our first ever interview out, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
So if you've not heard it, or if you don't follow her already, you need to go to ADHD Untangled and listen to the Untangled podcast by the legendary Rosie Turner. She is so lovely. She's a yoga instructor who's neurodivergent and just really mucking in, using everything that she's learned and her own experience to talk about, you know, channeling your strengths, getting untangled. And it's fantastic. We loved chatting to her, didn't we?
Yeah, it was such a great wee chat.
Yeah, and we've got another interview coming out with the wonderful Claire Jacobs from Single Parent Pessimist on her podcast called Mind Vox Pod, and we're really excited about that as well. Absolutely love Claire, but I tell you what, it's scary.
Yeah.
Because I talk so much nonsense and then we can't sit back and go, can you take that out? Because I sound like an absolute buffoon.
Well, that's
so
it.
I'm dreading that one coming out as well.
That's it. When we interview people, it's great because we ask
we're in control of what goes out as well.
We ask the questions and we're in control of what goes out and what we want to keep in.
Like, you don't even hear half of the tangents that I go off on. Like, Dawn makes me sound less ridiculous than I am.
Not at all.
But, yeah.
Sometimes I have to re-record things I've said because I've been completely incoherent. I'm like, that doesn't come out the way it was supposed to.
But, it's so wonderful connecting with everybody, and we're just really feeling the community vibes right now within our own community that we've created on Patreon. Doing the morning body doubling and all of that is just wonderful. But yeah, just chatting to everybody. We need to make noise. We need to make as much noise as we can. That's what we came here to do. And with the help of Kat, it's making us be brave enough to speak out in public and start doing the things,
yeah, because I honestly don't have a bloody clue. So people like Kat are a godsend, you know, just helping us out.
Helping us figure out what we can do. So thank you to everybody who's getting behind the activism, tour. I swear we will have tour dates sorted soon, but oh my God, there just aren't enough hours in the day. And that's not a whinge because it's such a privilege to have a platform and we love what we're doing. And
absolutely.
We, you know, literally live and breathe, you know, ADHD awareness and trying to make change happen. But yeah, we are spinning a lot of plates. Yeah. And somebody who's very good at spinning a lot of plates is our next guest.
Yeah. So our next guest is the wonderful Abigail Agyei.
Yes, she is such a absolute legend. Abigail Agyei, MBE, nonetheless. MBE.
That's incredible.
This incredible lady is an award-winning senior policy advisor, diversity, equity and inclusion champion, and neurodiversity advocate with over 8 years' experience in building and maintaining strong working relationships with community groups and supporting voluntary and marginalised groups. In 2020, she won the Civil Service Rising Star Award, which is the same year that she got diagnosed with ADHD. In 2020, or found out that she had ADHD.
Yeah.
But she'll tell you more about her journey very shortly. Abigail is also one of the top 50 most influential neurodivergent women by Women Beyond the Box. And she recently did a TEDx at the University of Essex on ADHD in Black women. I mean, give the girl a medal. She doesn't need one. She got one off Prince Charles. So...
I like what you did there.
You're welcome. Yeah, Abigail, what a ledge. We just loved speaking to Abigail.
Such a great conversation. So
yeah, this wonderful woman. Just enjoy. We'll stop talking.
Let's go.
ADHD as females, ADHD AF, ADHD as females, the podcast.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Dawn.
Hi, I'm Laura, and we
are
ADHD
AF.
AF. Seriously. We are two neurodivergent neighbours who moved to the same street at the same time, at the same age, with the same undiagnosed disability. What are the chances?
Since discovering the enormous impact ADHD has had on our lives and the horrifying numbers of missing undiagnosed females, it has become our mission to make some serious noise.
We want to use our voices to raise awareness, break the stigma, and share our experiences in the hope that they help others.
So join us for a chat, or as it's called up here in Aberdeen, a blether.
Trigger warning, we will be covering some really sensitive topics, so please do have a read of the description of each episode before listening.
It's important to note that we are not medical professionals. We're not therapists or coaches. We're not qualified to offer advice or support. What we will do is share our experiences alongside resources and information from professionals. We will talk over each other and we will go off topic and forget the point mid-sentence.
We are both assigned female at birth, which means that we can only speak from the experience of life as AFAB people. However, ADHD AF is an inclusive space. Whatever your gender, you are very welcome here.
Yes, you are.
ADHD as females, ADHD AF.
So we are very excited to have a very special guest. This is actually our first interview of the year.
I know, can you believe that?
This is very exciting. So welcome, Abigail. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So will you tell our listeners who you are and your occupation, a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, happy to. Really happy to be here. My name's Abigail. I'm a senior policy advisor, so that's like the day role, and I work in early years health. So my main focus at the moment is working on making sure we're supporting the early years workforce. So health visitors, midwives, making sure that it's diverse and they have the skills and training they need to support families and babies. So that's kind of the main day role thing that I do. But I'm really passionate about intersectional identities, and I've had kind of a career in and out the civil service supporting like marginalized communities and amplifying their voices. So I also have ADHD and dyspraxia. So I'm also like a diversity and equity and inclusion champion and neurodiversity advocate. So a lot of the work I do there and I'm really passionate about is making sure that all of us are able to get ADHD diagnosis, especially Black women, as they tend to be misdiagnosed and underdiagnosed for ADHD.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a lot of what I've been doing the last few years that I'm really passionate about. I did a TEDx on that last year. And
Just
yeah,
drop that one.
I
was trying to wait and say, I'm like, you are a busy girl.
trying to do too much all at once. But yeah, that was like a really amazing, I think, giving me more opportunities to do things like this and like talk about that. So yeah.
What an incredible achievement. I'm so jealous. I'm still really
you.
burnt. I've applied twice to do the TEDx and they don't want me.
To give any tips I have, it was kind of a journey. I think sometimes it's all about, I guess, sourcing like variety of like universities and stuff that do it. So yeah, it's a bit of a ball game, isn't it? But
that's fantastic. You've also got an MBE, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't know. I get really shy about that. It's still very surreal. But yeah, I got.
I'd be like, shout it from the
I know. My mom's always like, "Where is it?" I've like literally got it hidden somewhere. Like it should be on show, but I'm like, I'll lose it or something will happen to it. So it's like up there somewhere. I should have brought it out. But yeah, I got that last.
There's
this little thing where it's a badge of honor. But I got that last year, which is really lovely and still very surreal for public and community service work. When I was working in my last department, which is the Department of Levelling Up in Communities, I did a lot of work and community engagement work with ethnic minority communities and faith communities over the pandemic. And some of those lovely people in the race network I worked with put a submission together. So yeah, I thought it was a joke when it first came through the post. I was like, and they said you shouldn't tell anyone. So I'm like, who do I? So I had to like call them to be like, is this real? Really?
So, do you know what? So my mum's actually got an MBE. And when she got the letter, she thought it was a wind up.
Yeah.
She rang me up saying, yeah, right. It says here the Prime Minister has requested my presence at Buckingham Palace. Nice one, Laura. And I was like, no, really? That's nothing.
I've got nothing to do with this.
Amazing achievement though. Well done.
It is really nice and very, very surreal, but it was nice. Yeah, got to go to Windsor Castle and meet the now king. He was Prince Charles at the time. So yeah, very,
yeah,
very,
it's
very surreal.
amazing. I really do think it's wonderful. It's like, it means that you've given your life in service to your country and it's been recognised. I just think that's incredible. So well done, you.
Thanks so much.
Amazing. So let's get into the questions. How did you come to suspect you had ADHD?
It was, how did I first suspect? So what I remember was the article I first read. So that was 2018. And Penny Bell, I don't know if you've heard of her, she's an amazing mental health advocate. So Penny Bell, I saw an article that she had put together about getting her ADHD diagnosis at 30. It was like a BBC article. And I just remember reading it and thinking, oh, this is really interesting. And then kind of reading her symptoms and kind of feeling her mind was constantly on overload and that she would just be disorganized and feel physically and emotionally burnt out and things like that. And I was like, this sounds like me. This is my story.
All the dots start to connect.
Exactly. I was like, oh, hold up. So
about me.
There's something, this isn't normal. So I remember reading that and thinking, oh wow, and thinking ADHD, it's nothing I'd ever associate, I hadn't associated with anything other than hyperactive boys. I wasn't aware of ADHD. So as we do, I went down kind of a rabbit hole reading about loads of it and thinking, oh my God, wow, there's all this stuff, all this information, became obsessed with a lot of the stuff Penny was doing at the time. Because at that time, there wasn't anyone else really talking about it. So I just kind of went down that loophole and kind of, would use information that she would post as kind of a guide. And then they didn't do too much with it. And then 2020, I didn't really think about kind of the diagnosis at that time. I kind of just thought, okay, let me just I guess, use the strategies and advice she gives. And then 2020, I think as for a lot of people, things were just really feeling they were exacerbated and I was just feeling exhausted. And I was like, I think I actively need to kind of really look into this. What the process is about of actually getting this diagnosis, because that was something that I just wasn't clear about as well. So decided to first go to my workplace and kind of let them know. And they kind of we can get you an occupational health kind of appointment. So you can speak to them from a workplace assessment, if you need support there, but we don't know what else we could really do past kind of that. So I spoke to them and they were able to kind of give me a workplace assessment. And they kind of did a test and said, it does seem like your symptoms do go with ADHD. So I was like, okay, then. But they were like, but this isn't an official diagnosis. I was like, okay, so what exactly would be the next step? So I kind of took that to my GP and then spoke to my GP. And initially my GP was kind of not fobbing me off, but was like, oh, are you sure it's not just kind of anxiety or some other stuff? There's a lot going on. This was the height of the pandemic, the height of Black Lives Matter. And I do a lot in my workplace, working with that in community and the race network as well. So he was just like, is it not just all that? And I was like, no, I feel like there's just a lot going on and that this kind of all these problems have always been there, but it does feel exacerbated at the moment, but I feel like I need that support. Then I think I saw something on social media about the right to choose option, because I was kind of confused navigating the ADHD process. I was aware of kind of you've got the NHS step and then you've kind of got that further step, I guess, to go with the Psychiatry UK provider. So I was like, okay, let me get this letter together, I'll give it to my GP. And I was like, I want to go with this provider. Can you make sure that's kind of goes to them? And then, it was having to be a lot of kind of checking in with my GP because the forms just didn't seem to, everything seemed to be stuck. I'd be calling Psychiatry UK. They'd be like, we haven't received anything. And it seemed to be a few months of that back and forth. Then the letter seemed to go to them. And then, it's kind of that process of filling in the forms. Sorry, typical ADHD says, was the initial question about the process or just how?
That is the next question. I'm already answering it. So this is great.
I'm already going already racing ahead. But basically it was Penny. It was Penny Bell that made me realise I first had ADHD. That's it.
So many people, the pandemic was just it was the moment. And it's because obviously as undiagnosed ADHDers, we've built all of these coping strategies around ourselves unknowingly, and then you don't get to do them.
We're so used to masking, and I think it can get to those, so many of the women I've spoken to, it does end up being a lot of these key milestones, whether that's university or something else having to balance those things, or motherhood, where kind of that light bulb clicks where it's something else.
That's it.
We speak to a lot of people also with menopause, because that's such a huge hormonal influx, just making it impossible to manage, you know. So where did we get to?
I know. So speak more about the diagnosis process. So
Yes.
you said you went right to choose. How was the diagnosis process for you? How long
Once
did that?
you'd have to chase after that bit.
Yeah, so March they were finally like, yeah, we've got your information, you're kind of on the waiting list. And then it was September 2021 that I got my official diagnosis. So it was that like 6-month period. So not as bad, even though that does sound long, it's actually not as bad as a lot of people I think currently trying to navigate the NHS system. So yeah, that was that 6 months. And then I think in that time, that's when I did have to fill out some of those forms in terms of like, I guess the questions about kind of looking at your childhood and adulthood and some of those symptoms that come up. They asked me to give the same questions to somebody close to me. So my partner, he filled that in, which is really interesting to like kind of just things you don't realize, and him being like, yeah, all this stuff.
Am I going to be offended? Am I going to be offended by any of these answers here?
It's because you had it, didn't you, with a friend? And it was like, she was like, please don't be offended that I've marked you highly here. And you're like, well, I'm not like that. It's like, well.
Exactly. It's so interesting to be like, she'll just leave tasks. She'll be doing the washing and then she'll just leave that, go off somewhere else. She can't watch like certain programs she won't be able to watch for ages, but if she's really interested in something, she'll spend hours doing it. And I'm just like, oh wow. This is something.
Bit of an eye-opener.
It definitely is.
When you got your diagnosis, did you go down like a therapy route or did you decide to go on medication?
I decided that I wanted to try medication. The way, I'm not sure if with everywhere, but right to choose was kind of like given those two options, I think, of either, is it CBT, or the medication. And I thought, okay, let me try this medication, see if it will kind of help with the concentration. And then, so gone through the titration period for about 6 months. And I'm still confused. I feel like sometimes I feel like it's really working well for me. And then other days I'm like, I'm not sure, but I'm never sure if that's just other stuff exacerbated, because obviously you still have to, your sleep and other things. I'm always fighting with it. But I think it is definitely, there's days where I really feel like it's helping. So that was kind of,
because also we've heard a lot about, again, this hormonal thing. So like the week before my period, I might as well not be taking anything. So I'm about to start something else as well, just for that week to see if it helps. Because all of a sudden I've just like got no energy, can't concentrate. Nonsense.
And it's interesting that you say it was either CBT or medication. There was no offer of both, I'm guessing.
And that's where it often feels like there's that inconsistency when you speak to different people with the whole diagnosis process. Because when I went through Psychiatry UK, that's how they positioned it, and I was like, well, it'd be great to have both if possible, but it was phrased that I have to have one or the other.
And there's studies that have shown that the two together are like the best.
I just think I find it very interesting because I've just started titration as well, and I'm going through some realizations about how my procrastinating isn't just from having ADHD. Well, it is from having ADHD, but it's also from years of undiagnosed ADHD. And the fact that I have lack of confidence and fear of failure and don't want to start
overthinking things.
So it's not just the medication's not going to fix that needs to come with help and support to get me over.
I think so, to kind of understand that whole journey. And that's why I think stuff like that, ADHD coaching, like you said, unlearning, these stuff is also important to help with the journey.
Can I ask as well, so your partner had to answer questions. Did you have to have any proof? Like, did you have to have anybody from your past or like any school reports or anything like that?
Because people have said that. I don't think I showed or they asked anything like that, having to go that far back. Because people have said that before, that they had a parent. And I know when I especially speak to lots of sometimes people from Black women community and stuff, there's sometimes that anxiety because like I haven't even had that conversation with my family yet to have to go that far back. But I wasn't. I don't know if because the work kind of assessment was sent, that was some kind of evidence and they had some information in that. They didn't actually ask for anything else past, I guess.
I didn't either, but you did.
I did. Well, I went through the NHS process and then decided to go private because of the time things were taking. But in both instances, they wanted the school reports, and
interesting,
and I had a report from an educational psychologist as well from a university, so I gave that to them as well. And
I would not have been able to find. I don't know. I would not know what a school report is, a uni report. So maybe it was because I think with my work one, they asked my manager something at the time. So maybe some of that stuff I think was incorporated in the work one and things like that. And maybe that's what they thought was some kind of guide to, but nothing further from like childhood or anything like that.
It's interesting because you think that there would be more consistency between.
And I think,
another thing that I always kind of worry about, about how there doesn't seem to be any consistency with the process.
Like we were both private in the same city, and it was completely different. And like for me, I think in a way it's actually quite ableist, because if we can say that, you know, us ADHDers, we can be prone to conflict sometimes, like who's to say that you've got any mates, or if you're over a certain age that you have any family that can vouch for you. And maybe you're such a master of masking, what do they know anyway?
Exactly, which is it's so interesting, isn't it? And it's just even in that sense, because that's what I always thought about when I later had the conversation with my mom. She was like, oh, why didn't you get me to do it? And I would have been, but I think, some of that, and that's a whole nother conversation. I was like, I don't know if you would even be able to give that full reality, and some of the masking I've done with you, or some of the, like, it is so interesting, the process, isn't it? There may be some of the things that can make it harder for people on the journey.
Well, that's it. So what do you think undiagnosed ADHD has cost you?
Oh, what has it cost me? A lot of things. I think when I think about it, relationships, I think it has to some degree. I think even in my like current relationship with my fiance, who is amazing, I think it's been such a journey for us too, because I know I am like not always the cleanest. I'm a hoarder. I try to do things a certain way. And I think I mentioned in my TEDx, I think one line is a lifetime of good intentions but failing to execute. So that's a line that I said, and I feel like that just sums up my life, where it's like you always have the best intentions. Like I want to do things right, but I'm just not. So I feel like it's cost that a lot of times in our relationship, and really having to like have conversations and put ADHD strategies in place, and, you know, coming into a room and just leaving something somewhere, forgetting about like all those things. I think it's definitely cost that in relationships, people kind of not understanding why certain things are so hard for you to do, or why you keep on repeating same behaviors that you've probably like had conversations about. I think, lack of boundaries, I think is something that I've often had, and I think loads of ADHDs have. I think a lot of like overcompensating. So I feel like the things I wasn't good at, I would overcompensate. And I feel like in friendships, whilst I think a lot of ADHDs, I've probably had a breakdown in friendships, maybe from the opposite of some ADHDs, where I almost try and do too much sometimes. I think there's always a high expectation, and then when I can't always deliver that way, that can cause problems, or feeling like I'm being taken advantage of, because I think I've always tried to overcompensate in friendships and be like, let me be that friend who does look like I'm doing it all or everything, but really I'm masking kind of other things I'm not dealing with well. So I think there's that people pleasing I think a lot of ADHD have, and I think that's caused.
That's such a new one, because like we were talking about boundaries a lot. I actually put a post out today, but like in terms of that doing too much, like I really relate to that. Like and also I can see things in front of me sort of irritating me, like somebody that keeps taking. I think, well, I can take it, and then I'm like, no, I can't, and that's it.
So I feel like I've definitely had that, and definitely it can become that cycle of doing too much for people, but being like, well, they haven't really asked that from you, so why are you doing that? And then getting upset because that's like, it's probably unfair. So I think there's been a lot of that, and compensating, and overspending, debt, loads of the literal cost.
The literal cost and everything else. And so what do you think has changed for you since your diagnosis?
I think the main thing is being kinder, having more grace for myself. I feel like that self-compassion, because like understanding that there's more to things, and it's not that, you know, I'm like incompetent or not intelligent, which I felt with for so many like years, where it's like, why am I trying so hard and things aren't working out? It's just, there's a different way I need to do things, and there's just strategies I need to put into place, and I just need to be kinder to myself. I think that it's done that. I think it's also has helped with relationships a lot more. I remember like when I decided, because I had quite a bit of anxiety about speaking to my, I think, mum about it, and my dad, who I'm sure has ADHD, and we've now had like kind of conversations about it. But I feel like, especially culturally, and being an immigrant, being from a British Ghanaian family, there's a lot of, I think, things where we're kind of taught to work twice as hard and things like that. So you always feel like there's, and I've looking back on my journey, I always feel like they were always the things I thought, I'm just not working hard enough, and all these things. So I think being able to have those conversations, and I remember speaking to my mum about it and saying that, oh, this is what it is. And initially she kind of, not exactly fobbed off, but she was like, oh, but did well in school and you've achieved so much and look at all this stuff you've done. I don't think that's what it is. And I'm like, no, I've had like an official diagnosis and conversation. It's not, it's not about my intelligence. It just means there's different ways I need to work stuff. And then when we really had that conversation, she understood things more. So like, I think, it's really helped with relationships. So she'll come back and be like, oh yeah, I want to help. Like, I know this is the way that is better for you to understand things. So I thought I'd send it to you in this way. And like, same with my boyfriend, he'll say he's always trying to like help make he's like become very obsessed with trying to make this more ADHD friendly. He's like, oh, you wouldn't be so messy if you knew what this was, and we put stickers here and there. So I feel like it's really helped relationships and stuff as well. So yeah, I think that it's just being able to kind of create that space for conversation and to put like things in place that are ADHD friendly.
That's really lovely.
Yeah.
And just because it popped into my head, like to circle back, like obviously everything that you've achieved, everything that you're doing, like, I mean, some forms of ADHD need to do all the things, and we're doing all the things and spinning all the plates all of the time. Like, do you feel that what you've accomplished, like your diagnosis has helped you to do that? Or were you always doing that many things?
I think I've always tried to do too much, and I think that is based on that is probably part of the ADHD of overcompensating, people pleasing, wanting to, and the positives of ADHD. I think a lot of us, we are empathetic people. Like, I think we have and really want like kind of social justice and fairness, and I think that is probably a lot of, because we've dealt with a lot of criticism and things like that. So I think that's probably, as I understand my ADHD better, I thought it was always more just kind of being more like a minority person used to being in space. But I think it's all of that stuff together. So I think, I've already forgotten the question. Everything I achieved, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, like, do you feel like it pushed you, like everything that you're doing, for example, you were talking about being a neurodiversity advocate and everything, that's obviously come afterwards, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of all the other work that you were doing, like, do you feel that getting your diagnosis has pushed you to do more, or were you always doing everything?
Yeah, I think I was definitely doing everything before, and I think now I probably feel a sense of trying to do either more, which is good and bad with it. Just trying to find the balance. But I think now I feel more like, I've like finally kind of got this diagnosis and understanding, and I want people to be able to have that, especially like younger girls and stuff, to have it earlier. Like, I'm sure you women are so grateful as well getting it now, but you just think, imagine being able to get that in school, and imagine. So I think it's kind of pushed me to, I think I've always had that passion to like help underserved groups, and especially I think the reason why I got into the civil service, I didn't really understand much about it until like after uni. I was like, okay, these are the people who kind of work with government, public service, and like can kind of help, I guess, communities who don't often feel seen and heard by government to kind of get that message out there. So that's why I kind of went into it. So I feel like I've always had that passion to want to help people who don't feel heard, and I think like now my ADHD diagnosis, I guess, is making me want to do that more with like certain groups and communities who feel unseen.
I can relate to that. Like, I guess it comes from kind of feeling like a bit of an underdog yourself, and being like, I've always been one that supports the underdog. Like, I remember doing Camp America years ago, and there was a kid that just didn't quite fit in, and it was my mission to get everyone to love this kid.
My mum always says that.
I'm like, this is a good kid. So I'm just like, and to be fair, they did, like, he was a funny kid, and he just just was a little bit socially awkward and whatnot, and I was just like, no, I'm getting involved, and
I think
that's always been driven to do that,
because I think it's that justice sensitivity thing that we hear about a lot.
That's the phrase.
I also think there's like, with that empathy as well that you're talking about, there's like a duty behind it, and I always feel a bit like, if I know that I can make a difference, then that sort of means I have to, like, you can't
you're so right, that sense of like feeling, like it is that purpose that you have to almost do it, you can't leave it. So
and now, since having a diagnosis, that drive to help people that
need to access it,
that need help, and you don't want them to go through what you've gone through, and if you can do something and make a change to that, then why wouldn't you?
Exactly. So there are positives.
Exactly. Absolutely.
If you are finding this podcast helpful and you're in a position to do so, we are asking that you help us by signing up to our Patreon. In pledges starting at just £4 a month, it will give you access to our We Are ADHD AF community forum, in which we are both active members and we all support and learn from each other. You will also get access to behind the scenes content, exclusives, offers, blogs, vlogs, the works, everything in the kitchen sink. Your pledge will also mean that we will be able to continue to put out weekly episodes of ADHD as Females, the podcast.
Alternatively, if you would prefer just to make a donation, you can do so by visiting buymeacoffee.com/ADHD as Females. We know that our words are helping people in 164 countries and counting.
We really appreciate your support in supporting us to continue supporting the ADHD community.
If you are ADHD AF and you want more ADHD AF, join the We Are ADHD AF community. www.patreon.com/ADHD as Females. We always refer to the late diagnosis being like a grief cycle. So where do you feel like you are on the late diagnosis roller coaster?
I think I talk about it in my as well, that you kind of go through that. Yeah, you do go through that process, don't you, of grief, where initially you do, like, I felt validated on one hand and like liberated, feeling like, oh my God, finally I've got an answer. But then you have that anger. Why did things take so long? And some of that shame. I feel like I am at that acceptance stage where I'm proudly talking about it. For like a long time, I wouldn't really. It would only be in certain circles. And now obviously I've kind of put myself in this advocate space in the last few years. I have been like publicly speaking about things. I think there can still be that shame sometimes in certain things. And I feel like I do sometimes have not the shame with certain things. I feel like, oh, why aren't I better? Would I be better for certain things? Or if it wasn't for my ADHD and I feel like even though I am doing this in a public forum and stuff, I feel like there's still conversations with families and stuff like that I'm still trying to like navigate. So I feel like sometimes there's that shame, which is why I'm so passionate, especially like in my community, to make sure people there is not that stigma. But I think I'm definitely at that like acceptance stage, and I'm proud.
Fantastic. Yes. What about, I was just thinking, with all of this, with your feelings of justice sensitivity, with wanting to make a difference, when you see people struggling, like, are you able to, make space for it, but not carry it? Because that's something that we've struggled with quite a lot is, and people are telling you what they're going through because you understand, like if actually you get it, sometimes it can really throw you back and make you really sad because you're right there with them,
It is hard, and I'm always trying to give that advice and then try to take it myself of being careful not to carry too much burdens, because you have to also protect your mental space, and of course we get burnt out a lot more than people. So it's hard to find that balance, because you do always want to help. But I don't know. I don't know if I can give an honest answer, because I'm still trying to navigate that myself. But I just try and
it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I think for us, like definitely, like I know. So I got diagnosed last January, so it's been a year, and for a really long time there I was really angry. Like it was just there all the time, and it was good because we could channel it to fuel getting going and doing this, but it was like, gosh, I really hope this wears out soon because I'm really angry. But it has passed now. I think I still get angry, but I'm not like raging all
not
the time.
Every day angry,
not all day every day. Thank God.
I know. So if you could implement change to the diagnostic process, what would that be?
Like magic wand stuff, fix it now. What are we doing?
I don't know. I feel like a lot of it can often feel like it's just kind of based around not everybody else, but kind of, I just feel like the way ADHD and sometimes the things are phrasing it is just how you kind of inconvenience everyone else, and not kind of really about how, like, to make things better. And some of like the positives, I think also just it's too admin. I think it's the whole process is really ADHD unfriendly. I think it requires a lot of admin, kind of remembering appointments. I think the diagnosis process does need to think and look at how things like manifest differently in women, and how we often internalize things, and obviously there is that kind of inattentive and hyperactive that comes up in it. But I think sometimes, a lot of things are really, and obviously a lot of the research has been done, which is why I think men are still 3 times more likely, boys, predominantly white, hetero, cis boys. So I think there definitely needs to be a lot more of that research into women from those different backgrounds, LGBTQ. There needs to be, like, I think a lot of funding and research into how kind of ADHD shows in lots of different groups.
Yes.
So I think that's something. And yeah, just like we talked about earlier, just this kind of navigate. There needs to be more consistency in the confusion with the process.
Just a standard.
Kind of
Standardized.
I thought it was just the different processes of kind of NHS right to choose and private, but to hear the inconsistencies within those, I think is concerning.
Really concerning.
And obviously every single person is different, and like we say, there's different minority groups, and it does affect people differently, but surely they can still have a cleaner standard system that's more consistent across the board, and
taking into consideration all of these things.
It can tail off to different angles for the specific person, but even just having a base level
standard,
for the starting point.
I agree.
Yeah, so we've been really pushing people to like answer the surveys for the debate on Monday.
Yes, of course, Leanne.
And quite a lot of people have shared what the MP wrote back to our template letter we kind of got out. And what's been really interesting is there's been pretty standardized responses, but it's been a lot like focused on children or focused on there's just not been anything, even though we've written a very specific late diagnosed female ADHD perspective, there hasn't been much recognition of that at all. So even within it, we're still not getting heard, which is really frustrating, especially when you consider, like we said, so many of us, the pandemic and all of that
lost generation.
So that's interesting, but we hope for change and we'll soldier on.
Yes, we will.
Oh yes, I need to make sure I'm tuned in into the debate, because I think it's so important. It's amazing that's been able to get there, and people I filled it in, and people are feeling it's really important.
So tell us some positives. I know we've already spoken about some positives, but positive sides of ADHD since diagnosis in the world, you know.
I think our creativity. I mean, I think we made a testament to that. What you've been able to kind of do with it, like your platform as well.
We're just flying by the seat of our pants. We don't have a clue what we're doing.
But I think that's what I think is so good about a lot of us ADHDers. I think in that sense, where it's like
get stuck in.
Literally, I kind of that could be a good and bad thing about me. I'm like, I will figure it out. I'm just gonna give it a go and see, and like navigate our way through it.
It's the risk taking, the impulsiveness. Sometimes that can actually.
It can create amazing stuff. So I think that empathy, I think it's just, like I said before, tend to be like hugely empathetic and caring and want to really make change. What else is there? I think the hyper focus, when it is, can be really channeled into something good. I think it's amazing as well.
It's like you said, that's why it's so important to have the understanding in the workplace, because then you can there's so much shown about people, ADHDers in the workplace being underutilized, like not living up to the things that they can achieve because they're not being harnessed and used and championed in the things that they can actually do. We have somebody in our community who was talking about that today. Her employers are neurodivergent, so they really spoke to her about like what enthuses you, what do you do, and then it's like, right, well, you're golden, off you go. You're gonna work away.
Quite interesting. I was speaking to friends this weekend about jobs, and one of my friends was saying that the role that she works in, they're kind of pushing her to step up and become a manager, but she's like, I don't want to manage people. She works with programming, and that's her area.
That's her passion.
And she's happy to like head up that department, as in like specialize, and some people to approach her if they need help in that area, but she doesn't want to be a people manager. And a lot of companies keep pushing you. It's like, why don't you want to climb the ladder? Why don't you want to like do this? Like, you can't just be happy where you are, and some people are. Employers need to stop pushing people to climb the ladder when that's not necessarily the area that they want to go in.
And banging your head against a wall. If somebody's up against something and they keep not being able to do it, then like read the room. That doesn't mean push harder. It means they should be doing something else or doing it a different way.
And I feel like there's not enough of that. And I'm really passionate about that. Like with people I've managed in the past as well, having like a form that someone sent me that was really helpful in terms of like personal preferences, work adjustments, like how do you like to work, what hours do you like to work, how do you like feedback to be communicated to you. Like these are all things that are really helpful to, you can't presume that just having one system is going to help everyone. It's not going to benefit people.
Because that's the thing, right, is that we are all different. ADHD and ASD, everything, this huge spectrum is like, it's going to present in every single person differently with the different things that they have going on in their life. I've got a friend who finally told their employer, and their solution was they were going to build like a glass box for her to be in so that she didn't have to hear the noise or get distracted. And she's like, so they'd read it somewhere that that's how you make, you know, your office neurodivergent friendly or something. And she was just like, no, because now you're segregating me and I'm going to be like a weirdo in a big glass box. Like,
oh my God.
It's just no size fits all. We are individuals.
No.
It's utilising each employee, each person for the skills that they have.
Exactly.
How to support them, how they can thrive.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Oh my God, I can't believe that was really going to be put in place.
I mean, A for effort, but come on.
Yeah, start with asking her how she thinks, like, what will work well for her, how they can support her, and if she doesn't, because that's nothing I'm passionate about. A lot of the time, people don't have the language or know. Like, I didn't know for a long time it was ADHD or anything like that, or some people aren't comfortable with the labels, whatever it is. I think it's important that, you know, you really understand what works for people, what doesn't. If they don't understand that, you get somebody who can talk through that with them to work to see what's best for them. But definitely not just one size fits all implement, especially not the glass.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because before I knew anything about it, because I worked for myself online, well, for different people, but like self-employed, and I would always keep a Wednesday free. And everyone was like, why? And I didn't even have the language or know why, but it's like, right, Monday, I'm at it. I'm going to go. Tuesday, I've still got the momentum. Wednesday, absolutely.
I like that. Yeah, it's like that break in the middle of the day, isn't it?
I'm back in.
Yeah, it makes sense, and that's it.
Strategy.
It's not a one size fits all, and that's why companies, when they're doing these reviews and saying, "What's your 5-year plan?" Like, I hope you're aiming to be like the next CEO, and it's just like that's not for everyone. And then you can't then ridicule that person because they don't want to climb the ladder.
Not conforming to the strategy.
No, let's use them and utilize them in the areas that they are good and they can excel in.
Agreed.
Exactly. So neurodivergent friendly, there's no such thing really, is there? It's just figuring it out person to person and supporting people.
So is there anything else that you want to add? We can speak more about what you do.
Is there any, like, specific point you would like to get across?
I could just talk a bit more about kind of like my passion for advocating, like I said earlier, for Black women, kind of getting diagnosis and understanding the kind of diagnosis process, because I think it can be a real hard process to navigate, but I'm really passionate about it, especially kind of about that representation in communities. I think it is really important that there is kind of, I think, as I said earlier on, like some more of that research into kind of looking at an array of people when it comes to ADHD. And I think a lot of the time, sometimes healthcare, education as well, kind of need to assess some of their policies and look and think, is there maybe some unconscious or conscious bias with some stuff? Because definitely in engaging with a lot of Black women, I've often heard their experiences in navigating the kind of diagnosis process and really feeling like they have to proper advocate for themselves. They're kind of being minimized. They're being told it's probably something else, or it doesn't seem.
Why do you think that is? Like, what is it that's being minimized? Like, what is the stereotype or the idea that is stunting this? What do you think?
So I think there's an array of things. I think, especially for a lot of Black women, I think there's often a lot of I think expectations and pressures around Black women. So there's often that strong Black woman trope. And I think a lot of the time there's a lot of things that I've even had to understand with myself. And I think why I often felt a lot of that internalized shame was Black women are often taught that kind of this should be domesticated, they should be nurturers, they're strong, they can handle kind of a lot of things, which is why I think generally in the healthcare system you see in a lot of different things that there is kind of that gap in addressing Black women's needs with maternity, things like that. There is those significant disparities, and I think a lot of it's come out about the idea that there's kind of this idea that they can handle pain and stuff a bit better. So I think sometimes in the diagnosis process that can be the experience where it's minimized or presumed it's something else. And I think sometimes that own internalized pressure, so because of that and being associated with that strength, it can be hard, I think, for those women to even articulate that or think that it could be something like ADHD. So I think that's why
so also on top of the perceptions is them having to fight against the ideology put on them to be strong and to not ask for help, kind of thing. So I think that's why the whole representation is really important, and being able to normalize it in Black communities to create safe spaces. I know you've had
the ADHD babes on, and they do amazing work to create that support, that safe space. I think it was so empowering for me when I got my diagnosis. The first time I went to ADHD babes, I was going through the diagnosis process, but it did feel liberated to see other women, because at that stage I didn't know any like Black women with ADHD, so there still was kind of that shame of, well, who do you speak about this with, who in your friendship, like where do you kind of navigate this idea that it's ADHD? Is that something that, and with mental health and stuff, there is still some of that stigma in community, in the Black community, and because of the relationship Black communities have had with kind of practitioners before.
Yeah, and I guess if people aren't speaking about it in your community, it makes it even harder for you to figure out who to talk to, and you feel even more alone.
You feel so segregated that you would want to out yourself, so to speak.
More alone, more shameful. Makes it even harder to advocate for yourself, and then so you're already trying to fight
against it,
fight a system that's already difficult to advocate yourself in front of, and it just makes it 10 times harder.
Exactly. So I am so grateful. And when I did do more research, like I have to shout out, ADHD babes, Adulting with Rach, she writes amazing blogs about navigating ADHD in the workplace, and she's a Black woman. And there's so many people out there, when you kind of do the research, you are starting to do that stuff, and it's so important. And I have to shout actually the Waterloo Road, seeing that, like, I don't know if you've seen the storyline they did, and to see like a young Black girl at the forefront of that, I was like, that's so important. So there are people who can see that and see, like, in the education process, supporting children that young and making sure the tools. So I thought that was really good to like see that on TV. So I think all that stuff kind of helps break stigma and create conversations in communities. And I think it's important for more practitioners there to be that diversity with psychiatrists and things like that, because for various things there is a lot of that kind of distrust sometimes in Black communities with the education system, where they're more likely to kind of be labelled as troublesome and things like that. And in the healthcare system there can be that lack of trust in practitioners, so there needs to be more of that diversity as well.
100%. I was so shocked when we did speak to Shauna and Vivian from the ADHD babes. Vivian had been struck off, hadn't she? So she had her diagnosis, she had her medication, and then she missed like 2 appointments or something, and they said, oh, you're no longer here, and that's that.
I remember her saying that. We had a conversation. I thought that's crazy. And funny enough, that reminded me with Psychiatry UK, because they did message me a few weeks ago. There's something similar. We hadn't heard from you in a while. And I was like, I'm just kind of going through the meds at the moment. So I haven't really thought. But you also feel like it's not the most, when you're trying to do 101 things, it isn't the most ADHD friendly to, like, you forget. So I was like, that reminded me. And this conversation reminded me that I better message them again, because that could happen to me in the next few weeks. So it's just, the process, it can often feel like, just churning people out and not supporting them in the long haul, which is a shame.
Well, I really, like, I don't know, it's funny, isn't it? Like, we're in such a crisis, like, from all angles, but I just really do hold out hope. Like, I really do. I just feel like with everyone coming together, we're having these conversations, okay, you've got it's a trend brigade, but hopefully they'll shut up at some point, and change is going to happen. It
has to. It has to. And we'll keep putting pressure.
Exactly. You women are part of what we're doing. I think having these conversations, like you said, it is helping it, and it is about changing the systems. And it does help. That's what I always say. A lot of this stuff will help everyone in the long run if it's, if these things are done and put in place. It makes it easier for everyone.
And that's it. So we'll keep spreading awareness, and we'll keep talking about it, and keep coming together and keep fighting. And
and hopefully we'll hear some good news.
Yes, I have to keep an eye out. No, it's going to be I think to get it on that platform is hugely important. That's amazing. She's so proud.
Absolutely. So
I think that's us.
The
most important question is what's the most ADHD thing you've done this week?
Oh God, what it probably always is overcommitting this week to things, and then realizing this week that I've committed to a lot of stuff. So definitely, obviously, I'm speaking at like this Women in Leadership conference tomorrow for part of the civil service. I haven't put the presentation together. I was supposed to send it to them this morning. I was I'm just gonna have to send it to you tomorrow morning, the slides, when I work out what the hell I'm talking about. So it's just just all these things where I'm like, I agreed to do them weeks before, and then it's like, how are you going to do all this, and how are you going to actually fit the time to prepare for them? So yeah, I think that.
What, you mean there's only 24 hours in a day?
Yeah, like why? It's not enough. So yeah,
you'll smash it. That's what us ADHDers do best.
Yeah, we'll come together.
We are last minute wonders. We always pull through in the end, right? Thank you so much for your time. It's been so lovely to chat to you.
It's been so good to speak to you, bro.
I know, it's been lovely.
We hope to speak to you again.
Yes,
definitely. To have a great evening.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
How much do you love her?
She's an absolute legend.
Really the best. Thank you so much, Abigail. It was such a joy to speak to you, and we are in awe of your amazing plate spinning skills extraordinaire.
That's it. She's just doing so much, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, she's doing amazing work. So yes, good on you, Abigail. So, what's the most ADHD thing you've done this week?
This week, probably when I came back, I was away down in Newcastle this weekend visiting a friend, and I came back and I parked the car and I had a bottle of juice that I just bought. Juice being fizzy.
Nothing to do with fruit.
Yeah. what we call it up here, just a fizzy pop.
Yeah.
Anyway, I took the bottle and I put it on the roof of my car, and as I laid it down, I said to myself, do not forget this bottle, because I needed to put it down to grab my bags. And obviously, what did I do?
Woke up the next morning.
Yeah, so I forgot the bottle. So I completely, it didn't even exist to me anymore. And I'm walking out to my car to go to uni, and I just see this bottle on top of my car, and instantly I'm just like, yeah, you forgot the bottle.
At least it was fresh for the morning.
Well, to be fair, someone said to me, they're like, did you drink it? And I'm like, well, yeah, it was in the same place I'd left it the night before. They're like, what if someone peed in it or something? And I'm like, but it was like ice cold. It was just perfect. It was delicious. So I'm like, I didn't even need to put it in the fridge. It was great.
Yeah. Morning treat.
Exactly. What about you?
Well, I'm going to go a little bit off piste here. So I have mentioned in the past that I have auditory processing disorder. Not diagnosed, discovered through a meme. But I know that's what I have. I've always struggled. I went to see, I don't even know, an ear doctor. I had all the tests. I was actually given hearing aids for a little while, and it didn't make a difference because, as ever, I can hear the volume. It's the words that I can't distinguish. And so I since found out about auditory processing disorder. So going to London, navigating the tube system, all the rest of it, totally fine. Absolutely fine. What I've realised stresses me out is tannoys, because I don't have a clue what they're saying. So if I hear a tannoy, I immediately go into a bit of an anxious state because I'm worried that they're saying something really important that I'm going to miss. Yeah. And so, I spent a lot of time in London doing that. There's one guy on this tube to Brixton that was just literally like narrating the whole journey. And I was getting infuriated. Like, I'm sure all he was saying is next stop this and blah, 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 all the rest of it. But I just noticed it in myself. I just thought it was interesting to share because we always talk about this identifying your issues. Yeah. And without thinking about it, I've obviously done that my whole life and not really realised why it makes me so angry and stressed. And it's because I don't have a clue what they're saying. Yeah. Not one clue. I catch the end of things, but if there's like a long announcement, the whole middle is gone. I have no idea what they've said. Yeah. Yeah, it stresses me out.
I can understand that.
Yeah. So we've only got time for one from our followers, and this one's a special one. So it made me laugh to begin with anyway. Launched a book and a song in 1 week, then trying to work 65 hours, surviving on Concerta XL and living on no sleep and eating junk food, forgetting to drink water. Ha ha ha. Sounds like the story of both of our lives. Except not so much the book and song, but yeah.
Plinning splits. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
But congratulations to you. So this is Dream Walls, who is Hannah Huxford, singer and author, and her book, The Secret Diary of an ADHD Martyr, A Girl Gone Wild, will be out soon. So go to her page and listen to her song and read her book, and we salute you. Well done, lovely.
Yeah, well done.
Please drink some water.
Yeah. Do that. And that takes us over to the ADHD AF rabbit hole.
So my rabbit hole this week has definitely been the activism stuff. Yeah. And I was all G'd up to go to the protest. And then Kat very kindly was giving me pointers and then suddenly put the fear of God into me that I was actually going to get arrested, even though she was just being really, really helpful. She's like, write this number on your arm and do this. And I was just like, she was totally chill. And I was like, oh my God, the one thing my husband said to me today was, don't you dare get arrested. And she was like, no, Laura, you're not going to get arrested. That's what I'm saying. It's like 99% not going to get arrested. I'm just giving this to you to make you feel better. I was like, oh yeah, thanks. How about you?
Well, obviously, I've been in this animal noise in different countries rabbit hole for some time.
Is it 3 weeks now?
No, and I did say last week I was going to speak to my Danish friend who I was seeing at the weekend. So that's not been my rabbit hole, but I did find out, well, the one that I found with the most humorous was how they say the cockerel noise, which ours is obviously cock-a-doodle-doo. That's what we say. But in Denmark, and obviously I recorded it, so this is what they say for cock-a-doodle-doo in Danish.
I love it.
Cookity-coo.
It's very cute.
It is very cute.
It.
But my actual rabbit hole this week has been just trying to get my life in some kind of organisation kind of place.
Yeah.
Like I started the week off really anxious because I just was overwhelmed with everything that I have to do. But I've also realised that I can kind of combat that anxiousness by planning everything and creating a system. I know, by creating a system. And so my mentor at uni was like, let's get a timetable. She can see that I have timetables and like a diary and a plan, but she's like, you don't have one that's everything all together specifically for you.
Yeah.
So she's like, it's fine having one with Laura, which is joint and stuff, but you're not getting a clear view of your day.
Yes, yeah.
So she kind of pushed me on to doing that. And so I've started this color coordinated spreadsheet with everything that I have on, and just doing that has made me feel 10 times better already.
Amazing.
So
That's
I've been
fantastic.
I've really focused on that. So that's been my rabbit hole, and I'm still work in progress, but like I'm enjoying it, and it's like definitely my little rabbit hole.
Brilliant.
At the moment.
And we've really got to get organised, as difficult as that is for both of us to do. Otherwise we're going to start dropping plates.
Yeah.
And there's so much that we're now, losing focus on. Like we haven't really talked that much more about our amazing T-Mill collaborative products.
The
and they're
ADHD
so cool.
apparel.
And we just don't have time to do anything. But thank you to everybody for all of your support. And we are doing our best. And very soon we will have all of the tour info out. And then that's another job, and we can get back on and bring out more merch and just keep pushing with the activism stuff. And
and if you have purchased any of our merchandise, then we'd love to see pictures.
Yes.
So please tag us, send us pics. Really.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone who, not just those that have joined the community, which we love, literally life-changing for us. It's been so incredible. But also to those that have donated through our Buy Me a Coffee page, because we really, really appreciate it.
We could not be doing any of this without you.
No, really. So thank you so much for helping us to continue to spread the word and raise awareness. And with your support, we can keep going. So
you're a bunch of legends.
Bunch of legends. We love you. Should we shut up?
Yeah, let's shut up.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
ADHD as females, ADHD AF, ADHD as females.